The old house groaned around me, a symphony of settling wood and sighing winds. I'd bought it for a song, a sprawling Victorian relic on the edge of a forgotten town. They called it Blackwood Manor. Locals whispered stories, of course shadows that danced in empty rooms, voices that echoed in the dead of night. I laughed it off. I was a rational man, a writer seeking solitude, not a character in a Gothic novel. But solitude has a way of amplifying things. The first week was bliss. The silence was a canvas for my thoughts. Then, the whispers started. Faint, at first, like the rustle of dry leaves carried on a breeze, just at the edge of my hearing. I'd pause, straining to listen, but there would be nothing. Just the creak of the floorboards, the hum of the old refrigerator. I told myself it was the house. Old pipes, drafts, the kind of noises you expect from a place that's seen a century pass. But the whispers grew bolder. They weren't just random sounds anymore. They were shaping into words, fragments of conversation I could almost understand. My name. Sometimes, Leo, a soft, sibilant hiss from the corner of the room. I'd spin around, my heart hammering against my ribs, only to find an empty armchair draped in shadows. My own fears began to surface. Things I'd buried deep, the fear of failure, the nagging insecurity that my best work was behind me. The whispers seemed to know. They'd murmur critiques of my writing, echoing the worst reviews I'd ever received. Uninspired, they'd hiss. Predictable. It was psychological warfare, and I was losing. One night, a storm raged outside, rattling the window panes like skeletal fingers. The power flickered and died, plunging the house into absolute darkness. That's when the whispers became a chorus. They were everywhere, swirling around me in the suffocating black. They weren't just critiquing my work anymore. They were talking about me, about my loneliness. No one to hear you, they chanted, their voices overlapping, a cacophony of malice. All alone, Leo. Always alone. That was my deepest fear, the one I never admitted even to myself. The terror of dying alone, forgotten. The house knew, or whatever was in the house knew. I fumbled for my phone, its flashlight beam cutting a nervous path through the gloom. The beam swept across the living room, catching on the portraits of the Blackwood family that lined the walls. Their painted eyes seemed to follow me, their smiles tight and unsettling. I started investigating the history of the house, digging through dusty town records in the local library. The Blackwoods were the original owners, a wealthy but reclusive family. The last of them, a woman named Elara Blackwood, had died in the house decades ago. The official cause was a sudden illness, but the town clerk, a nervous man with darting eyes, told me the rumors. He said she went mad, that she spent her final days talking to the walls, convinced the house was alive. That night, the whispers took on a new quality. A distinctly female voice rose above the others, clear and commanding. "This is my house," it said, the voice seeming to come from right behind me. I froze, every muscle in my body tensed. "You are a guest, Leo. A temporary one." I didn't dare turn around. I could feel a cold spot in the air, a pressure, as if someone was standing right there, their breath on my neck. My rational mind was screaming, fighting for control. It's an auditory illusion, I told myself. Stress, isolation, your mind is playing tricks on you. But the cold was real, the voice was real. I spent the night huddled in my bed, covers pulled up to my chin like a child, listening as the whispers debated my fate. They spoke of my insecurities, my regrets, every mistake I'd ever made. They picked apart my entire life, leaving me feeling raw and exposed. The next day, I found Elara's journal tucked away in a loose floorboard in the attic. Her handwriting started elegant and controlled, but devolved into a frantic, hached scrawl. She wrote about the whispers. She described how they started as murmurs, then grew into voices that preyed on her fears, her fear of being forgotten by the world, her insecurity about her place in the family. It was my story, written a lifetime ago. She wrote that the house feeds on fear. It doesn't just echo it, it consumes it, growing stronger with every doubt, every moment of terror. She wasn't mad. She was being haunted, just like me. The final entry was terrifying. "They want me to join them," she wrote, "to become another voice in the dark. It is the only way to silence the fear. I'm so tired of being afraid." A chilling realization washed over me. This wasn't just a haunting. It was a recruitment. The house, or the entity within it, didn't want to just scare me away. It wanted me to become part of its chorus of despair. That night, I confronted it. I stood in the center of the grand, dark foyer, my hands trembling. "I'm not afraid of you," I yelled, my voice cracking. The house fell silent. For a moment, I thought I had one. Then, Elara's voice, sweet and venomous, filled the space. "Oh, but you are, Leo. You're terrified of being alone. You're terrified of failing. We can take that all away. Join us. You'll never be alone again." The other whispers chimed in, a tempting, sinister choir. Never alone. Never a failure. Just one of us. They showed me images in my mind, visions of success I'd always craved, of companionship, of an end to the gnawing loneliness. All I had to do was give in. Let go. It was a tempting offer. The writer in me, the lonely man in me, wanted to accept. To finally find peace. But another part of me, a small, stubborn spark of defiance, fought back. I thought of Elara's journal, her descent into despair. That wasn't peace. It was oblivion. "No," I said, my voice firmer this time. "My fears are mine. My failures are mine. They make me who I am. You can't have them." The house roared, not a groan of old wood, but a guttural, furious sound that shook the very foundations. The temperature plummeted, and shadows writhed in the corners of my vision, coalescing into indistinct shapes. The whispers became a scream, a wall of psychic noise designed to break my will. I clenched my fists, focusing on the single thought that had become my anchor. I am not Elara. I will not be another voice in the dark. I stumbled out of the house and didn't look back. I drove until the sun came up, leaving Blackwood Manor and its chorus of whispers behind me. I never finished my novel. Instead, I wrote this story, a warning. Some places are not meant to be lived in. They are tombs, waiting for new occupants. And some whispers you should never, ever listen to. They know exactly what you're afraid of. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next from the shadows. Stay safe out there.